Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's EricRayweather back here with a huge Madden 22 update to go over with you guys. One of the bigger updates so far this year, a lot of changes, a lot of fixes. I thought they would drop it early next week, but they surprised us and they're dropping it at the end of this week, which is cool. So we finally are getting new X Factor and Superstar players. We're getting a lot of gameplay fixes. We even got some franchise fixes as well. And we've gotten some other things added to the game on top of that. So pretty good update overall to go over. Now, I do want to say really quickly, with it being the month of Christmas, I'm going to be doing a lot of giveaways over on social media. On my Twitter and my Instagram, I've got signed memorabilia and things like that, jerseys and stuff that I'll be giving away throughout the month. So if you want to enter some of these giveaways, make sure to follow on Twitter and on Instagram. It's up on the screen here because I want to give back to you guys for Christmas. I want to give out some stuff, so make sure to follow over there. But let's get into today's update. So first, we have to start with the X Factor and Superstar players. We've been waiting so long for this. They finally have given it to us, and there's actually a lot of players that are being upgraded to both X Factor and Superstar, which I'm very surprised to see. I'm surprised that they're making this many changes, but I'm glad to see it. The first one we got to start with, of course, is Kyler Murray. Long overdue. He is now an X Factor player, one of the MVP candidates so far this year. He's got the first one free X Factor, which typically you see this with running backs, but obviously him being such a good running QB, it makes sense. He's going to have a high fake out rate on the next juke, spin, or hurdle once he gets in the zone. Next up is Dak Prescott, another guy I think has been deserving for a minute now. He's going to have the Blitz Radar X Factor, which is going to highlight extra blitzers when he gets in the zone. They actually did it. They actually gave Josh Allen X Factor. Now, I thought he should have been an X Factor last year, and now this year, him and the Bills as a whole, they've been a little hot and cold. He hasn't been quite playing as good as he was last year, so I'm actually surprised that they gave it to him. I didn't think they would, because if they didn't give it to him last year, I didn't see why they would justify giving it to him this year when he hasn't played quite as well, but I do still think he deserved it. It's just going by EA's logic. I didn't see how they would make it happen, but I'm glad that they did. He is finally an X Factor player, and he has the Bazooka X Factor. I believe it's just him and Mahomes. This was exclusive to Mahomes ever since these things became a thing in the game, and Josh Allen with a super strong arm is definitely deserving of it, and now he has it. He also has the fast break ability. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he had this before. Now, this is for design QB runs, which is actually really interesting. That makes him even more OP. I don't think he had this before the update, so that's another addition. Next up is Cooper Kupp, who was a shoo-in. He was the #1 guy I said would get X Factor because it was just the most undeniable one I felt on the entire list because of how crazy he has gone as a receiver this year. He's got the Rack 'em Up X Factor, which means he will win those rack catches versus single coverage when he is in the zone. Here's one I'm actually super excited about, Terry McLaurin. He deserves it, but I did not think they would give it to him because, let's be honest, Terry McLaurin is extremely underrated. He does not get quite the hype as some of the other top receivers, and he is a monster, but they did it. They actually gave it to him, and I'm super happy to see this. They actually gave him the Ankle Breaker X Factor, which is something that no other receiver has. I believe this was exclusive to Christian McCaffrey until right now. He gets a high fake out rate on skill moves following the catch, so he's going to be good in the open field, kind of the run after the catch. Now, they also gave him the Runoff Elite ability, which was added a while back, but they didn't actually give it to any of the players. This essentially, when you're calling a run play and the receivers fake like they're running a route, he's going to run a more convincing route to kind of fool the secondary that, hey, it's a pass play when actually it's a run play. So pretty interesting ability, and they finally gave it to somebody. Next up is Cameron Hayward of the Steelers, another guy that's been having a great year. Surprised that they bumped him up because, you know, usually they don't give a lot of guys like this a lot of credit, but they did. He's going to have the Fear Monger ability, which gives him a chance to pressure the QB while still being engaged with a blocker. He can kind of cause those inaccurate pass penalties, even if he's still somewhat engaged with the blocker. And last but not least, DK Metcalf finally upgraded to X Factor. He's going to have the Double Me, which kind of makes sense. I mean, he's a guy that's going to definitely win those aggressive catches. I honestly might have gave him Rack 'em Up just because I feel like a lot of his biggest plays are kind of just beating the single coverage over top one-on-one and getting a rack catch for a touchdown. I feel like you see DK do that more than you see him actually go up and do like an aggressive catch over, you know, a defender. But because of his size, you know, either of those actually makes sense. So that's the one that they went with. Now, that's it for the X Factor players. I think you could say somebody like Justin Jefferson probably snubbed here. You know, there's a couple guys you could say were snubbed, but that's like the biggest one on my list. I think Justin Jefferson, you know, if some of these guys got got X Factor, I think he would deserve to kind of be right there with him as well. Now let's look at the superstar players. Up first, we have Justin Herbert, much deserved. He's been playing really good both years he's been in the league. He gets pass lead elite, which is a great ability. This really helps you fit passers into tighter windows. And he's got sideline deadeye, which is going to give you better accuracy outside the numbers. His teammate Mike Williams has also been upgraded to superstar. He has outside apprentice, which gets him extra hot routes when lined up on the outside, which is where he does most of his damage. And of course, he has deep out elite, which gives him improved catching on the deep passes outside the numbers. Again, that's where he does most of his damage. And also Austin Eckler, a bunch of Chargers getting upgraded. He gets Energizer, which replenishes his stamina after successful moves. And he's got Backfield Master, which is one of the best running back abilities. It gives him more hot routes and improved catching from the backfield. That is a great ability for pass catching backs. Now, you know Deebo Samuel had to get upgraded. He's having a crazy year. He gets the mid out elite ability, which gives him improved catching outside the numbers. And he has Slot-O-Matic, which gives him better cuts and catching on short slot routes. Now, I think he should have got something to do with running the ball as well, one of the running abilities, because like he's a running back too. That's just how good he is. He pretty much plays two positions, so they should have gave him something to do with running the ball as well. That would have made sense. Next up, we have Wyatt Teller for the Browns, right guard. He has post up, which gives him, you know, kind of the dominant blocking when he's engaged in double team blocks, and he's got nasty streak, which is a really good one. He gets good impact blocks against DBs and linebackers, so like if you're doing a run play where he's pulling and he's on a linebacker or a DB, he's probably gonna pancake him. This guy was another shoe-in to move up. Trayvon Diggs going absolutely crazy, and he got the exact two abilities that I said a while back he would get, because he is a guy that gets his hand on the ball. He gets those interceptions, so he's getting pick artist, which is going to give him better catching and improved stamina on interception returns, because he likes to take them back for 6 as well. And he's going to get acrobat, which gives him diving swats and interceptions. Acrobat is by far the best defensive ability in the game. This allows you to really make picks that otherwise you would never be able to make it. You get crazy interception animations with this, which is perfect for Trayvon Diggs. Next up, we've got Marshawn Lattimore. I'm surprised that they moved him up to superstar, but I'm happy to see it. He gets the on the ball ability, which grants him improved reactions versus the runoffs. Remember, with Terry McLaurin, he has the ability that he can sell the runoff on a run play. This is kind of the counter to that, where you react better to it. And he also has deep route KO, which gives you improved knockouts in man versus deep routes. And that makes sense because he's usually most successful in man coverage, especially defending the deeper routes. He's going to be locked down in that scenario. Next up, we've got Matthew Judon. He's been going crazy this year, so this makes plenty of sense as well. He's got the demoralizer ability, which means when he hit sticks the ball carrier, it will wipe out their zone progress. And he's also got edge threat, which is one of the best pass rushing abilities. You get those block sheds, you get to the QB much quicker. Another guy I thought would move up, Jamar Chase, and he did. For a rookie, he's just going up really quickly this year. He's also got the runoff elite, which is the same ability Terry McLaurin has, and he's got mid-in elite, which is going to give him improved catching on medium passes inside the numbers. Next up, we've got Vita Vea. He's also been having a great year. He gets El Toro, which is one of the better pass rushing abilities. It gives him dominant bull rush wins versus, you know, pass rushers, and he's got BOGO, which gives him a free pass rush move after spending a point. His teammate Ryan Jensen on the other side of the line, he's going to get Secure Protector, which gives stronger protection versus quick block shed moves, and he's got All Day, which gives him better protection against frequent shed attempts. And last but certainly not least, Mark Andrews, a guy I think should actually be an X Factor, but he's just now going up to superstar. He's got mid-in elite, which gives him improved catching on medium passes inside the numbers, and he's got matchup nightmare, which gives him better route running and catching versus linebackers. Essentially, if you got a linebacker on him, it's almost going to be like a guaranteed catch, so definitely a good ability to have. Now it says here, be on the lookout for another ability update towards the end of the season. Already on the watch list are Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, Falcons running back Cordell Patterson, and Patriots DB JC Jackson. Now let me interject here, because number one, that's good that they're pretty much saying they're going to do a second ability update this year, because last year they only did one. Number two, I would argue all three of these guys, especially Jonathan Taylor, should have already been upgraded with this update. I think all three of these guys have kind of proved enough. Maybe you could say Cordell Patterson, because this is his first year really playing this well, but Jonathan Taylor played good last year. He's playing even better this year. JC Jackson's been good for a couple years. Those two guys for sure should have been moved up. Now, with those guys moving up, that means there's people moving down as well. So these are the players that were downgraded from X Factor to Superstar. Titans wide receiver Julio Jones, kind of been banged up. He hasn't really looked quite the same this year. Seahawks defensive back Jamal Adams, I kind of thought he would go down a little bit as well. Still a good player, but not quite looking like the top player that he was at one point. Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas, I don't love this one just because he's been injured for 2 years, which I guess you could say, hey, if he hasn't played in 2 years, then, you know, he shouldn't be taking up an X Factor spot, which is fair. But by that logic, then why is Christian McCaffrey still X Factor? Because he's pretty much been the same thing. He's hardly played in the last 2 years. They've probably both played about the same amount of games in the last 2 years. So I don't know. I feel like there's no consistency there. Cardinals defensive end J.J. Watt coming down, I guess, makes sense. He got hurt as well. And, you know, he was still playing pretty good, but he's not quite like X Factor level anymore. So that makes sense. Patriots defensive back Devin McCourty makes sense as well. He's kind of regressed a little bit. Again, still good, but not quite as good. Dolphins fans are not going to be happy about this. Xavier Howard coming down. They waited so long for this man to finally be an X Factor. And after the first update, he's back right now in the superstar. Now, these players went from superstar or from X Factor to having nothing at all. Saquon Barkley, that's definitely a blow. He's just not really been healthy the last few years, but I think he still should have at least been a superstar player because when healthy, you know that he is a problem. Odell Beckham makes sense because, you know, he just has not been himself for a while. Kenny Golladay doesn't have anything anymore either. Allen Robinson for the Bears, he's downgraded. Josh Allen for the Jaguars, he's downgraded. Cole Beasley for the Bills, that one makes sense. Patriots offensive lineman Trent Brown, Dolphins defensive back Byron Jones. So both of the defensive backs kind of got hit hard with this one for the Dolphins. Packers defensive lineman Kenny Clark, and Buccaneers offensive lineman Ollie Marpet. All of those guys listed now have nothing. Now let's talk about those gameplay updates. This is always one of the biggest parts about the title updates. That's the most important to the game because they, you know, can make the game better in some ways, but they tend to break the game in other ways as well. So let's start it off. They added logic for defenders to attack the QB more aggressively when scrambling on RPO and wide receiver screen plays. This has been a bug all year. They fixed some of them, but there were still other ones that were in the game where you could scramble with the QB during these types of plays, and the defenders just would not react to the QB until he was already past the line of scrimmage, which was causing a lot of exploits. They also added logic for defenders to recognize ineligible players downfield on RPO and screen plays so they can break into pursuit faster to attack the ball carrier, which would typically be the quarterback. They also did some tuning to improve the pursuit of the pitch and read defenders on RPO read plays so that they'll pursue the QB when he keeps the ball after not initially choosing to key in on the QB. So again, these are all changes they're trying to make to fix the exploits of the, you know, QBs running on designed RPO plays where they're not really supposed to run on those plays. They also fixed an issue causing the read defender to tackle the wide receiver on some RPOs. They also fixed an issue causing tight end streaks to take an outside release stem at the beginning of the route. This was an issue that popped up after the last update. After the last update, for some reason, when you would put your tight end on a streak, he would release to the outside instead of just running straight. So they finally got that fixed. They also did tuning to kick power so that kickers with 99 kick power will now have the capability to make a 66-yard field goal in the right conditions. It says here, because we saw a new NFL record for field goal distance this year by Ravens kicker Justin Tucker, we have updated the max kicking distance to reflect this amazing accomplishment. In order to pull off a 66-yard field goal, you'll need to achieve max kick power while pointing the arc all the way down, while also not having wind or weather negatively impacting the kick. Here's another big one. They fixed an issue sometimes preventing the defensive player from making adjustments after flipping the play. This has been an exploit all year. When you would flip your play on offense, sometimes it would freeze you on defense and you wouldn't be able to make the correct adjustments. It's been a big issue all year, so I'm glad to see they fixed that one. And they also improved the DB press animation that was taking the receiver too far off his route. Now, we also have some franchise updates, which might sound surprising after the news earlier this week about how they have canceled the remaining dedicated franchise updates for the rest of the year. If you missed that video, I have all the news for you. I'll put it in a link below in the pinned comment so you can watch that video. But essentially, they did cancel the 2 remaining dedicated franchise updates. Now, that might confuse people because they're thinking, well, they're not going to do anything to franchise at all for the rest of the year. That's not what it means. They're still going to be fixing issues with franchise. They're going to be fixing the bugs and stuff like that. They're just not adding anything new. What they were supposed to do with the 3 dedicated updates was add something new to franchise like they did Madden 21, like they did at the beginning of Madden 22 with the scouting update. That's what's been canceled, but they're not going to stop supporting it in terms of bugs and issues. They're still going to be trying to tackle and fix those, which they've done some of those in this update. They fixed an issue where downloading a draft class through scouting would sometimes cause a disconnect or crash. They fixed an issue where creating a league using real-life rosters would result in an error. They fixed a crash when selecting download from Madden Share while using real-life regular season week 1 starting point. They also fixed an issue where users would see an error message when creating a cloud franchise using the real-life roster option and regular season starting point. They had some other general stability improvements that usually fix crashing and freezing and things like that. They also fixed an issue with simulation stats in offline franchises where every quarterback's longest pass would be 25 yards. And if that's not all, they actually added some more authenticity updates, which you like to see. They added the Rams 1994 throwback uniforms. They're still adding more uniforms to the game, which I like to see. They did an authenticity adjustment to the 1990 Lions helmet, so I guess they had to fix it. It wasn't quite correct. This is one I'm excited about as a Saints fan. They added the 2000 gold and the 1980s home and away throwbacks. Now, the gold jerseys, we wore those one time in history, but they were so clean. I'm glad to see them add that back to the game. They also added Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy's beard. They've updated the Saints end zone seats, and they even added a new touchdown celebration for Kyler Murray. His meditate celebration is now in the game, along with him being an X Factor. That's it for today. Check out some of these other videos right here up on the screen, and I will see you guys next time.